morning, my sisters and my brothers.
Good morning.
Everybody had a good night's rest. Thankful to God that He woke us up this morning. And in our right mind. All right. Any of my YPDers in here? All my YPDs, stand up if you're in here. They may still be in a meeting. I just want to apologize to y'all because I meant to pop into y'all's meeting this morning. But then some stuff came up. Stuff has a way of coming up. Especially on the last day of the meeting. So let me apologize to y'all and I owe y'all one. All right? The only thing I have against the YPD this morning, I was coming in here, and a couple YPDs went by with 4 or 5 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts. And when I wasn't so bad, I just pressed my way. So, thank you so much. You get it? Y'all got a box? I love the YPD. Yeah. The only thing better than Chautauqua is them Krispy Kreme donuts. Happy to see Dr. Jessica Kinningham. Didn't she preach yesterday? Let me know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've got my sisters in now about 4 weeks. We will begin our series of annual conferences. And I want us to be prepared for our annual conferences. In your booklet is the schedule and the itinerary for the annual conferences. The 209th session of the Baltimore Annual Conference is April 1st to the 4th. It's going to be held at Bethel Church in Baltimore. Dr. Claiborne in the house. Dr. Claiborne, y'all ready for us to come to Baltimore, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. All right, the Washington Conference. It's going to be at Reed Temple.
Yeah, all right.
Reverend Dr. Mark Whitlock is the pastor. I think I excused him for this morning. All right, but I believe Reed Temple is ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are.
All right. The host presiding elder say they're ready. The Virginia Conference, April 29th to May the 2nd. It's going to be at the Norfolk Waterside Marriott. All right. And who's the host pastor? Okay. They ready for us to come?
Yes, sir.
No, we want you to execute the conference, not us. All right. And the North Carolina Conference, May 20th to the 23rd, and it's going to be held at the Macedonia Baptist Church Conference Center. Who's the host pastor?
Shelton Miles.
Shelton Miles. All right, they ready for us? All right. And the Western North Carolina Conference. June 10th to the 13th at the Sheraton Corey Center. Who's the host pastor? Committee. Now, the two conferences I'm least concerned about is North Carolina and Western North Carolina. And last night I found out who got the money. Yeah. They got breakfast, huh? Nothing better than the Carolina. The West is the best, but y'all are farmers. I believe you, Elder Dog. I believe you. Now, as Tina Turner said, what love got to do with it? Second district planning meeting is going to be July 14th to the 17th at the Hampton Convention Center. Reverend Jefferson, y'all ready for us? All right. Now, Reverend Jefferson been doing this all, he got this down pat. All right. Now, let me also put a couple things in here, and I did not realize this until last week. And I said, boy, this schedule is. The Bishop's Council and General Board meeting begins the Monday after Father's Day in June. All right, begins the Monday after Father's Day in June. And I thought that I had been blessed. I was scheduled to preach at the council meeting in Atlanta, and the supervisor passed. And I thought I had gotten off. The Bishop Beeman informed me last week that I'm supposed to preach for the Council of Bishops service in Oklahoma. We out in Oklahoma. Ain't many of us in Oklahoma. Basketball team. So anyway, those of you who can come to the Bishop's Council and General Board, I'll be most appreciative. All right? Also in your booklet, you have the annual conference itinerary. All right? On Tuesday, for the opening of conference, will be the WMS convention. I'll meet with the presiding elders. I'll meet with the conference finance committee, the board of examiners, the conference trustees, and we have the night in white service that evening at 7 o'clock. Wednesday will be the opening worship service and Holy Communion. Then we'll have the first business session. The first business session will be the roll call and organization of the conference, the Board of Examiners report, and on Wednesday night will be the conference lay organization service. On Thursday will be the morning business session, and we will have the presiding elders district report. The presiding elders district reports will be virtual. They will be virtual. Each presiding elder district will be given, I believe it's an hour for your reports. They'll be virtual. So when you all are recording your reports, make sure you tell your pastors, tell them they don't have to tell it all. And let me say this, it's supposed to be the highlights of your conference year. Some things are not highlights. Some things you need to do. For example, if the windows are broken, you replace the windows. That's not a highlight. That's something you needed to do. All right? 12 noon on Thursday would be the Women in Ministry service. In every annual conference, I provide time for the women in ministry to have a service. All right? On Thursday also, we will begin the committee reports. Now, committee chairs, I want you to submit a written report. The written report will go in the conference booklet. Committee chairs, when you come to give your report, you don't need to read the whole report word for word. The report will be in the booklet. Give us the recommendations that you want us to act on. All right? Do all of the committee chairs in each of the conferences know who you are? Elders, do all the committee chairs know who they are? All right. All right. On Thursday night at 7 o'clock will be the service of ordination. Thursday night will be the ordination service. Friday, morning business session. We will have the report of the CDC, Ministerial Efficiency Committee. Hopefully, nobody will be gone before Ministerial Efficiency. All right. Component reports. All right, the WMS, the organization Sons of Allen Women in Ministry in Swallow. And we will have the retirement service. And all of those who are retiring at the annual conference, you need to submit a letter. In the Methodist Church, you have to request retirement. All right? You need to submit a letter during the annual conference. You will submit your request for the annual conference to be approved. All right? Now let me also be clear. The discipline says, what puts what? You don't have to retire. Let me just put it to you that way. You don't have to retire. But the law says when you reach the age of 75, the bishop can't give you an appointment. So if you decide you don't want to retire, you're still not getting an appointment. Call it whatever you want to call it. But at 75, the bishop cannot give you an appointment. I hope you will request retirement. All right? Any question on that? All right, then we will also have the memorial service. At 12 noon, we will have the ecumenical service in every annual conference. On Friday, I always have an ecumenical service. Invite somebody who's not an AME to come and preach. Because the brother says whatever we're trying to do in the Lord's name, the AMEs can't do it by ourselves. And you can always depend that we will have an awesome preacher for the ecumenical service. All right? And whoever the host pastor, host committee is, if you would get persons outside the AME church to participate on the program, to do the prayer, to read the scripture. All right? After that community service, we will have our business session, at which time we'll have the statistical report, the conference treasurer's report, disciplinary questions, and the motion to adjourn. Now, let me say this. On that Friday, after that 3:00 p.m. session, and I'm very rigid on this, whoever I need to see, I'm going to see you before the close of that session at 3:00. After that 3:00 session, I don't meet with nobody. If you call me, I will not answer. If you knock on the door, I will not open. All right? That's the time when I try to make sure I finalize whatever appointments I'm gonna make, and I'm gonna try to prepare to preach. My practice is that I always preach the closing session of the conference. All right? So after that time, if I haven't seen you, then you either going back to where you were, or you're going to where I told you earlier you were going. All right? And let me also say that my practice is, if you're going to be moved, you will know before I read the appointments. I do not make pastors' appointments entertainment for the conference. You will know where you're going now. When I tell you where you're going, I will usually tell you, keep that to yourself. Don't tell anybody. Now, there's some folk in Georgia who found out the hard way that I meant what I said. Because, no, let me tell you what some folk do. And I learned this from Bishop Hildebrand. You know, Bishop Hildebrand has been my model for the episcopacy. And Bishop Hildebrand had a practice. If a pastor came to him and said, "Bishop, I'd like you to move me," and if the bishop decided to move them, then he moved them. Yes. There were a couple of ministers, folk from the church, came to the bishop all upset because he moved their pastor. The pastor had gone back and told the folk he didn't want to move, but the bishop moved him.
Well,
And so I learned this from Bishop Hildebrand. Bishop Hildebrand sent him back. Wherever he moved them from, he sent them back. So let this be your caution. If you ask me to move you, and I move you, and you go tell the folk you didn't want to be moved, and that mean bishop moved you, I'm going to send you back. All right? So I take very seriously appointments. And I take very seriously our churches.
That's right.
that's right.
And so we need to be honest with each other. Any question on that? All right. Any questions on Saturday at the close of the annual conference? I think the YPD meets. YPD directors, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Y'all meet 9 o'clock?
We will probably begin at 10. They'll start registration at 9.
All right.
See you at 10.
All right, so all of the host churches. Remember, the YPD meeting will begin on the following morning with registration at 9 o'clock. My expectation is that the YPD meeting will be at the same site as the annual conference. RAYC president here? When does the RAYC meet? RAYAC meet? They meet on that Saturday. When do they meet?
That's Saturday. That Saturday.
All right, what time y'all meet?
Each conference is different.
Is that right? All right, y'all work it out and handle it, but the bishop will try to attend the YPD and the RAYAC.
Okay.
All right. For the opening service of the annual conference, all the ministers are to robe. For the opening service of the annual conference, all of the ministers are to robe. All of the ministers are to process in. All of the ministers of the conference will process in. You will process in the following order: the itinerant elders, the itinerant deacons, local elders, local deacons. I'll leave it up to the board whether or not they want to licentiates to march or whatever. And then after that will be the program participants, then the presiding elders, the preacher, and the bishop. Any question on that? For the closing service, the ministers aren't asked to robe, but they are asked to process in the same order. You can't lead from the back. So the ministers are to process at the opening service and the closing service. All right? Closing service, the bishop will roll, the presiding elders will roll, and the program participants will roll. Any question on that? Now, somebody asked me the other day if the ministers have to wear their collars on the opening service. No. You don't have to wear your collars, you know. And I got this from Bishop Adams. Bishop Adams never wore a collar that I saw. And I've only wore a collar twice in my ministry. When I got elected a bishop, and my classmate, Bishop Few, said, Reg, let's wear our collars for our consecration service. I never worn a collar, but I went and bought one. I put it on that morning for the consecration service. Came down for the consecration service, Bishop Few showed up in a bow tie. And I said, Bishop, I thought we were wearing collar. He said, you know, I thought about it last night, this change. I said, I wish you'd have told me. Because my friend, William Watley, I had to get him to show me how to put on that collar. So you don't have to wear a collar, all right? Now, if you want to wear a collar, and the only other time I wore a collar was after I got elected to folk at St. Matthew. So Reverend Jackson, you never wore a collar all these 31 years you've been here. If you wear a collar your last Sunday. My last Sunday as the pastor, I wore my collar. I ain't wore one since. And not planning to wear another one again. All right? Any questions regarding the annual conference? For the opening black robes, we wear white robes for the communion service.
Bishop, what about ordination?
I mean ordination service. Oh, you know what? I take it back. We are having communion. Yeah, we will wear white robes. That's right. We are having communion. And this is the first time since I've been a bishop, I'm having communion at the opening service. You know, I'm particular about communion. Far too many of our churches, communion has just become nothing more than a ritual.
Talk, Bishop. Talk.
And when I pastored St. Matthew, they called the bishop on me one time. And the bishop called me and started laughing. What happened, I think it was in June. They showed up the first Sunday in June for communion. They showed up the first Sunday in June for communion. And there wasn't no communion. And my pastor Stewart, Bishop Stewart, just forgot to set up for communion. I said, no, we're not going to have communion today. And the folk were hot. You know, you got different kind of members in your congregation. You got first Sunday members. Then you got first and third Sunday members. Then you got second and fourth Sunday members. Then you got the Sunday that I sing members. Sunday that I usher members. And depending on who's preaching members. I said, I'm not fixing, we didn't have no communion. Then they came the second Sunday, we didn't have no communion. So Bishop Norris called me, and he and I were very close. He come and said, Reggie, what are you doing now? I said, what do you mean, Bishop? He said, some of your folk called me because you did not have communion on the first Sunday. I said, Bishop, show me in the Bible or the discipline where it says you got to have communion on the first Sunday. All the word says is as often as you do this. So the fact of the matter is that make sure you pastor that church for a while before you do it. After you've been there for a while, you can do something like that. And you do it because you want to teach a lesson.
That's right.
You know, what we do in worship should never become just a ritual.
That's right.
Communion is a sacrament. It means it's sacred. I said, don't just make it something that we ordinarily do. I said, the folk come one Sunday a month to get their communion. Make them come back another Sunday. All right? All right, any question on any of that? All right. Now, brothers and sisters, let me say a word about how this bishop does.
This one more anointed.
We'll see. Let me say a word about how I do appointments. Now, there are a couple of committees in the church that somehow or another have become very important, but they're not important to me. One is the sidewalk committee.
Help the church, Bishop. Help the church, Bishop.
And the other one is the parking lot committee. My brothers and sisters, I say this, that I do not make appointments like that. The hardest thing the bishop does is make appointments. And I take them very, very seriously. And let me say, I take my pastors very seriously. I take my churches very seriously. And several things you will discover that I do not do. I do not allow a church to just dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. Before that happens, I'm going to make a move. A lot of our churches have dwindled today because we've left people there too long. So I don't do that. Second, I do not make appointments on the basis of friendships.
That's right.
I try to be friends with all the pastors. But when it comes to appointments, my commitment is to make the best appointment I can make. And you will discover that for me, productivity is important. Ministry ought not be the only place where productivity doesn't matter. On any other job, you have to produce.
That's right.
And so I want to see the pastors produce. In order to produce, it means you have to do your work. Most of our pastors are bivocational. Many of them not by choice, but because of necessity. Because they have families they have to provide for. But let me simply say, because you are bivocational, does not mean your pastoral ministry ought to come second fiddle.
Come on.
When you read the book, the Apostle Paul was bivocational. He was a tent maker. But Paul did not allow his tent making to become more important than his ministry. In fact, he pumped much of what he made from tent making back into his ministry.
Right.
So pastors, please don't make your pastoral responsibility secondary. You say God called you, then make full proof of your ministry. So I just want to encourage you, please do not make your pastoral ministry secondary. And do not make it to a point where the only time that people see you is on Sunday.
That's right.
If that's the case, you're not the pastor, you're the preacher.
Yeah.
And when service is over, don't be in such a rush to get away. For most of your congregants, the only time they're going to get to speak to you is Sunday. Spend some time to shake their hand, to ask them how they're doing. Love the people you've been assigned to serve.
Yes, sir.
So I cannot impress that upon you enough. All right? And so coming up to these annual conferences, I'm discovering there's a lot more I need to do than I anticipated having to do. So let me say that now. And already in my mind is ticking on what we may need to do at the annual conferences. Every meeting I have, I keep a slip of paper in my pocket. And so if I see somebody and they stand out to me, I pull up my piece of paper, I jot down their name for future reference. All right? And take my word for it, this bishop is very observant on what you understand? I'm telling you, I can tell when you have or have not been in our meetings. I may not say nothing, but I'm looking.
Yeah.
All right, I'm looking. So if we're in the ordination service and I don't see you, I say,
Right.
it's not important to them. All right? Annual conference is not held in the lobby. So I would expect you to be in the meeting. And so as we come to annual conferences, a number of you I will be speaking with. And I try to make the best appointment I can make. And it's easy for you on the sidewalk committee and the parking lot committee to make appointments because you don't know everything I know.
That's right.
All right? For example, sometimes the bishop will send a pastor to a church and it just doesn't work out. It just doesn't work out. That does not mean that it's a bad pastor. Doesn't mean it's a bad church. But it simply means this chemistry didn't work at this church. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes there's just no chemistry. That same pastor will go to another church and do a marvelous job. And so don't presume that because somebody's appointment didn't work, man, bishop gonna demote him. That's a presupposition you made without knowing everything. All right? When I was in Georgia, I was tickled because, let me say this to you, you need to be careful what you say.
Yeah.
Most of what you say gets back to the bishop. You know, and you say, man, don't tell nobody. I say again, that's why you ought to read the Bible. Jesus said, don't tell nobody. Folk went and told everybody. All right? So if you say something, don't presume it's not going to get back to the bishop. All right? And let me say this, I'm not like the orange man. I don't believe in retribution.
Well,
I do not believe in retribution. But I am careful of folk who just got to tell it all. All right? Or who talk what they don't know. All right? So that's where I am with appointments. You know, and the AME Church, we have lost an awful lot of good ministers. It is rough pastoring in the AME Church. It's not always fair. AME Church is not an easy place to pastor. In fact, when you come, the reason you are admitted on trial. And understand what admitted on trial means. Admitted on trial means you had 2 years to look us over. See whether or not you want to be a part of this. But it also gives us 2 years to look you over.
yeah.
And help us decide whether or not we believe you will be effective in this ministry. So that's why you are admitted on trial. All right, any question on any of that? And the bishop is not naive enough to know that there's some folk who just gonna second guess the bishop's appointment. And any bishop get bent out of shape over that need to just stop. Because people gonna talk. Some of them ain't got nothing else to talk about but they in the church. And they don't have a life. Go to a movie. Go skate. But you ought to have a life. Right? Bishop, I called you and you wasn't around. I got a life. I'm not sitting there just waiting for you to call me. All right. So, I'm going to be prepared to make some appointments. And I know the Andy hotline will be working. All right? Any question on that? All right, Dr. Bryce, you want to give us our financial report? Now, let me tell you how I work on these reports. I'm a firm believer in transparency. When I went to the 6th District, and my first meeting, I asked the Finance Committee to give a report. I said, Bishop, what kind of report is this? I said, it's a finance report. We ain't never had that. At the close of all of my meetings, you'll get a financial report. You have a right to know what we're doing with the money you give for the work of the church. All right? All right, and I'm going to say this, Dr. Bryce has been an absolutely fantastic Shondell is absolutely fantastic. And both of them boss me around. Dr. Bryce will call, Bishop, I need to talk to you. Shondell will call, Bishop, well, you're doing everything you ought to be doing, so I'm on guard with these two. But they do a fantastic job for the district, and I want to thank them.